Welcome back, everyone. We'll start our next session from Chennai chapter, which is on Agile Unruled by Ravi Shankar Subramanian, who is a Senior Vice President and Head of Banking Practices at Hexaware Technology. But before starting our session, I would like to thank our founding sponsor, which is Innovation Roots. It is a leading consulting and training service provider helping organizations to achieve business agility and beyond. It is one of the leaders and pioneers of niche publishing services and well known for content collaboration with global thought leaders, authors, and creators. For more information, visit www.innovationroots.com. I would also like to thank our sponsor, Agile, which is a product offering from Tata Consultancy Services Limited. Is a purely cloud-based enterprise agile planning tool along with DevOps capabilities. Enterprise can use Agile to adopt agile practices or scale multiple Scrum and Kanban teams using enterprise scaling frameworks such as SAFe, Discipline, Agile, Less, and more. You can try out Agile for free up to 20 users for 30 days by signing up at agile.io or reach out to us for any inquiries or exclusive product demo. Check out the Agile page on Agile Network India website for more information. Here are some do's and don'ts for the participants. Join the event 5 minutes before the start time. Use high quality speakers or headphones for better sound quality. Please keep your microphones muted and videos disabled as this may cause disturbance and bandwidth issue. Questions will be taken via the chat box. Please enter your questions in the chat box. At the end of the session, the facilitator or the moderator will help and read out a few questions to the speaker as per the time available. Please fill in the feedback forms after the event to help us understand more about the event management. We appreciate your cooperation. And without much making further delay, I would like to call Uma, who will be facilitating this session. Over to you, Uma.
Thanks, Nisha. Yeah. So, good afternoon, all. This is Uma, one of the volunteer leader in Agile Network India, and I will be facilitating our today's session. So, Chennai chapter brings a very interesting topic, as Nisha mentioned, which is Agile Unruled. And one of the most famous adaptable method is Scrum, which is all about like a set of events, roles, artifacts, and tools. But this topic brings more interesting to me actually. Looks more interesting. So as like all of you, I'm also interested to hear from Ravi, from his experience and lot of. I mean, he is ready with lot of insights, I believe. So what is Agile Unruled is all about. So yeah, without wasting much time, so over to you, Ravi, for your quick introduction and for the detailed session.
Hi everybody, Ravi Shankar Subramanian, based in Chennai. I'm part of Hexaware and I lead the banking practice of Hexaware. I have about 25 years of experience in the industry, majority of it with TCS and some part of it with Wipro. I have had the great fortune of handling projects which are classified as red and then turning them around to green. So that's something that I cherish, and I would like to share some of the experiences and how we were able to do those things by following the spirit of the rule and not just the rule. So that's something that is good, has stood me and my team in very good stead, and we've been able to do a lot of things together. I'll just share my yeah. So yeah. So in addition to turning red projects to green, I also discovered a few things as part of my journey so far. Right across, I lived and worked in more than 13 countries. It's not just business visit; it's actually living there and forming teams and creating ecosystems that actually sustain you going forward. And what excites me the most today is the place where the word agile has reached. Back in the day, in 2001, I distinctly remember I was in Minneapolis and the word agile was a fashion statement. And then people were closely catching up. And by the time it was 2004, it slowly became a niche must have. And then over a period of time, that became the status quo. Today, people say agile is dead, the manifesto is irrelevant, and things like that. But what is relevant today is that the ability to solve problems in a timely manner is still the same, whether it was 2001 or prior to that or even today. And how do you do that? And how do you apply techniques to solve that? Whether you follow a rule or you don't follow a rule, it doesn't matter. What matters is, did you fix it? Did you have it fixed? Did you deliver on time? That matters a lot. And is the quality uh, as it was deemed to be? That is something very, very important. I'm a technologist. I dabble in AI and cloud technologies myself, while my official title is more executive, but I'm pretty much hands on, and that's why I keep exploring ways to work smarter and see how the workplace can be much more improved. That's all about me. And as we go to the, I'd like to understand agile. What is agile? Some customers used to tell me that this is an agile project, so I can keep on giving you requirements endlessly. That is the first thing I have heard, and I think many of you would have heard that on a constant and continuous basis. Yes, requirements can come if there are 100 items to be done, and then the customer has come up with, the business needs have come up with 20 more items. What agile means is you remove 20 from the 100 and you add this 20. That is flexibility, that is agility. But in reality, very few practitioners or people who engage with clients have had the great fortune of having understanding customers, right? That's a unicorn that doesn't exist because they have their own pressures. But agile, if you follow the rule the way it is stated, it's crystal clear. You'll end up working late, working long, extending your timelines, and so on and so forth, and end up doing those 120 things. If you follow agile in the spirit, you'll end up doing 100 things and end up doing 20 things by logically separating and reprioritizing the requirements in a logical manner. Then another thing that I've heard is, oh, this is agile, so it will be like this only. I will not be able to deliver ABC. I will only be deliver XYZ. I'm not flipping the argument. It doesn't have a license to fail. You have to deliver the core things, which is part of that 100, and encompass the core things in that 80 items. Now,
Ravi, sorry to
yes,
interrupt. We have that optimized microphone pickup pop up. Can you please close that? Yeah, that window.
is that
Thanks.
okay?
Yes, yes, Ravi. Thanks.
Yeah. So I just want to go to the, just a second, please. Yeah. So everybody who's on this call, I guess everybody, most of the participants are from India and they understand the game of cricket very well, and they will be able to instantly relate to these pictures that I have. When India lost the first test, all out for 36, this is what the coach told the team, right? Wear it as a badge of honor and never forget it, but never allow it to put you down. That is step one. That's what happens when the client calls and says that your team is useless, you're not following agile practices, this is not agile, my business is wanting you to take more requirements and things like that. This is a typical scenario that we see. And then second test, we're all but winning the test, but something happens and then we are in a situation where there are only two people left and one person cannot run because of a hamstring. So the other person, is a teamwork. They play to each other's strengths in that given situation. And then rest is history. I'm not trying to replay that match here. And step three is the final result. purely based on confidence, euphoria, and skill and fitness, the team won, where nobody has won for several years. That's called magic. That is when magic happens, and that is when you turn red projects to green. There are two things that you have to remember all the time. You have to follow agility in the spirit. You don't follow agile for the sake of following it. The ceremonies and all that. There is a method to the madness. I agree. But when things are in a twisted manner, you have to bend. You have to make your own rules. Just as Ashwin and Vihari made the rules. Ashwin told Vihari, "You play the quickies. I will play the spin bowlers. We will not run. We will just block." If you see the YouTube video, he will tell him in Tamil, let's play 10 balls at a time and not think about the rest. And that's the turning point of that team, which got all out in 36, drew the match, and then they come back and win. So all those things point only one word: resilience. Resilience is the word. That is the bedrock on which this so-called agile or agile-based project management or project execution is all about. So this is something we must imbibe, because you don't have to follow things for the sake of following things. You have to make the rules on the ground, contextualize it then and there, and execute the project. That has been the recipe for success for me, and I have seen many others emulate me later on, and they have been much more successful than what I have been today. So I first of all thank all those project people of mine, and I just want to share a few things, right? The self-styled godmen, as I call them, the people who think that they know Agile very well. They have X certifications, Y certifications. I also carry most certifications. I'm not against that. I just tried because I wanted to check out how good or bad that is. But what I'm trying to say is there are a few Dilberts here. I'm not going to walk you through these Dilberts because you can read them. If you have not if you're not able to see because of something is blocking, let me know. But then there are two main characters in any project: the self-styled guru, who will make all the rules, and then the sincere guy who will actually come and say that yeah, I have made this, I have made that, I have followed all the rules, write everything properly, but then no result will come out of it. This is a typical scenario. Now I just want to share a few experiences of mine. There was this large engagement that was running, and the teams were located in 4 different countries and across time zones, 4 different countries. And the language of communication was not English, it was a different language. And the project was delayed by 2 years. Yeah, mark my words, it was delayed by 2 years. And it was a 2 year project. And then I land up, and the counterparty is a very senior person, the most powerful person in that country. And they say that this is an agile project. You guys have to be more flexible. This should have been done 2 years ago. You are behind the schedule because of 100 reasons and things like that. And then I spoke to all the stakeholders in the project, the team, the business analysts, the testers, the project managers, the customer stakeholders, the consumers, and the people who are influencing the consumers, and so on and so forth. One fundamental thing that came out was there were teams located in various locations, and every team in every location was doing this, finger pointing at each other, and everybody said, I am good, the other guy is not good. So how do you actually fix it? So the first thing we did is we tailored the rules. That is the tailoring we did. We looked at the work, we looked at the functional block, and for functionality A, we will have team X. Team X will comprise of 3 people in every country or 5 people in every country. That way you follow the sun and you subscribe to that particular team and you work for your team. You don't work for your location or your particular circle of comfort. Break that barrier, break that comfort barrier, and teamify work. You teamify work and you ensure that you judge and rate, rank, and publish that ranking on the teamification of work, wherein has the functionality A been achieved by team X with this much effort, and have they been, what are the bottlenecks that they have faced and how they have circumvented this, and empower them such that it runs like its own startup within the project. So like that, I was able to micro segment the whole thing. And then once we micro segmented that, what we realized is we did not require a PMO to monitor everybody. Everybody started taking ownership. People started talking for their work and not for their people who are working in their same location. People in one location started defending and working for people in other location. There was more cohesion in the team. And once there was cohesion, there was velocity. And when velocity, we got velocity, there was throughput. And once there was throughput, we had critical mass. And once that critical mass in terms of an output came, we had a table, we got a seat back at the table in front of the customer. Then we started the reprioritization activity, which I started in the beginning. So what was supposed to be 100 items ended up to be 1,000 items because the customer knew that they could just take the team for a ride. So that reprioritization started when the team started delivery and they knew that the engine has started to work. Now, once that happened, we seized the opportunity and then we went for the victory. So the key thing is to identify the bottleneck and fix it on the spot. Don't follow any set pattern or rules. Tailor it. Tailor it, apply yourself. And as it always happens, don't hire skill or talent before you understand what the work is. That's a fundamental flaw. But then you can't wait for you to understand fully and get the person because there's a lead time for joining and all that logistics is there. But that is when you do the 80-20 rule and you hire accordingly. So it's a mix of several things. Team structure, ways of working, customer engagement, right setting the expectation level, team building, team cohesion, all this have to happen in a seamless and immersive manner. Okay. So all this happens in a very, very, very seamless manner. And once that happens, 740 person years worth of effort was spent over a period of 2 years. And what people said, even the head of the company said, this project is gone. It cannot be recovered. That project was recovered, and the people who recovered were people, many of them were doing their first project in their career, and many of them were working in that model for the very first time. And 80% of the team did not know the language, the official language of communication that was used in that particular project. So that is what the whole dynamic was. So even in that extreme situations, people were able to deliver on a continuous and constant basis because they started taking ownership for their actions and they subscribed for the teamification of work. That is where the whole thing happened. And what I'm talking to you is not like something that happened yesterday. This is something that was built about 10 years ago, and the software still works. Everything is fine, and people still talk to each other. They are in friendly terms, even after 10 years. That means that was the quality of the workmanship that came at that particular time. So once you start taking ownership for your actions and start feeling proud about your work and your team, more importantly, and people in the team start working for each other, the cohesiveness increases, and then you're wondering. That is when, again, relating back to the Sydney match, that is when Ashwin said to Vihari, right, 10 balls at a time. That's the aha moment. Whenever you see two people at the same level, they work for each other's goal on the same team, that is your 10 balls at a time mode. That's exactly what this whole agile or whatever you call. That's why I say unruled. The rules are there, but you follow it in the spirit, and that's why you need to have an unruled sheet, and you should need to keep it clean. Now, sometimes what happens is when you start an agile project from scratch, people will tell you all kinds of mumbo jumbo, and they will start creating all kinds of stuff. And the customer will say there is no documentation. After all, you are going to follow agile. Who said so? There is no documentation. There's much more documentation in agile than other projects. It's just that we use smart tools to ensure that the bureaucracy element of the documentation process is removed. There are so many tools available today. People say that this is a shared service. No, in moments that matter, it is a dedicated activity. For example, user experience creation. It is not a shared service. When you actually do it, you are in it fully. And once you have done it, then there are other people to take it and run. So those are the things that you do. And in agile, people think that testing is not required. No, you do greater degree of testing, and things get retested again and again and again, and that's much more solid. It's just that just because the velocity is more, people don't realize that. Now, as I said, this multiple locations, teams located, and we all are used to this on-site, offshore, near-shore kind of thing. The other thing, apart from cohesion and team cohesion within the teams, is the frequency. The frequency has to match between the teams. They have to work at the same pace, otherwise they'll be out of pace with each other. And as we talk about frequency and amplitude and all those tough words that college might have taught us, what is more important is they have to be in phase. The teams across locations should be aligned in such a manner that they work for each other's success, and that is called in phase. That is the English of whatever is written on this slide. So there was a time when on-site offshore was considered to be tough. Now work goes to the point where talent exists. You don't say I have a center in Jaipur, I have a center in Chennai, I have a center in Delhi, and you have to come there. No, work goes. The pandemic has taught us. The work goes to where talent exists. So I had a 10-member team, and all 10 people were located in 10 different cities across the world. In fact, in 3 different time zones. Still, that team came together, and they were able to deliver within 2 or 3 weeks in a very I I hate to use the word agile, but in very seamless and immersive manner. So that's something, the beauty of not following rules. There's only one thing as a leader you need to be aware of. There will always be a fused bulb. The bulb will uh, fuse. I see a question, I might want to address it, like when there's a language barrier, how do you address communication? Once you fix the goals and you say that this is the goal, and people understand that this is the goal, and they play back that this is the goal, and they understand that for me to be successful, I have to make the other guy who is in another location, who doesn't understand my language and I don't understand his or her language, that person has to be successful, and that is the definition of success for me. Once you communicate this part, the rest people will figure out a way, because people are very smart. Everybody comes to work to win. That's my answer to Devlina. But then I come back to this one. The one thing that you have to be always cognizant in your head is that there will always be a fused bulb. Something will always go wrong. Mr. Murphy will visit you all the time. If you are having this as a non-mutable thread in your brain, things will be fine. So everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Let me tell you an example of another project which we did again a while ago. Wherein it was a very complex project, first of its kind, extremely technically difficult. Wherein this is again quite dated. We had to match the speed and processing power of the mainframe on a Wintel box, and then this was the very first time that was getting tried. And long story short, success. It was very successful, and more importantly, the date of delivery was very important. So on 5th of April, the software had to go live. 18 months prior to that, we had committed to that date, and that was very, very sacrosanct from a business cycle standpoint. So that project had two very important nuances to that. Given that it was complex, given that it was a greenfield development, uh, two very important concepts came out of that project. We saw a trend and we implemented that very, very successfully. It was known as collaboration, wherein teams compete with one another to collaborate with one another. That is what collaboration brings to the table. And the so-called gamification of work, gamification aspects were all, what to say, I should not use a bombastic term called invented, but it came into being. This is, again, back in the day, several years ago. So things were not so online and digital at that time, but people rose above all those limitations and created an atmosphere of extreme creativity. So people, the teams and the module leaders or the team of teams was very, very active. So all the key people in all those specific functional areas, they formed a virtual team of themselves, and they used to discuss this over the famous chai discussions, like over a cup of tea or a glass of tea. They used to discuss, and nobody used to tell them to talk word. Again, the ownership aspects were very high, energy levels were very high, and that was very, very infectious, and it spread to the team. On that day, April 5th, 18 months later, the team delivered on target, within budget, and the key aspect was collaboration, where teams competed to collaborate with one another, and the least number of inter-team issues were raised in that particular project. Again, it was a 37% year project overall, but then it was very, very, very complex in terms of technology, and we had to bring in best of breed because people were doing it for the first time. Even the product vendors, OEM vendors, were also where their technology was used for the very first time, and everything was new. And thankfully, all I can say is, if at all you if you eat a Toblerone chocolate or smoke a Marlboro cigarette, remember those guys who worked on that project, who brought in the collaboration concept. They competed with one another to collaborate. I mean, that system, state of the art, customized ERP, built uh, um, uh, on a Wintel box that could beat the IBM mainframe out of the park in terms of speed and performance. So that's something. Now, enough of past. Let me share a few experiences that I've had very recently with the advent of AI and cloud and as a service economy, and everything is available as a service, right? If you don't have a solution for something, if you just look around, there's a SaaS service for it or a PaaS service for it, and you can consume that as a solution if your customer agrees. Now, very recently at Hexaware, we actually had a situation wherein we had to leverage the data landscape and monetize the data landscape instantly. And when we went and met the customer, and customer said, you know what, leave the data side alone. I have a different problem. I am not able to reconcile things. The right hand is not knowing what the left hand is doing. And can you come up with something for this? And I have something to tell my board day after tomorrow. So what happened is, two very senior guys at Hexaware got together, and one doubled up as an Azure administrator. The other person doubled up wearing the banker's hat, and they looked what could be done, contacted people in the field who had services that provided reconciliation, got that product, installed it on the Azure instance, white labeled it, tailored it, configured it, all within a span of 2 days. Just 2 days. Two very senior people. It was not delegated to a technical person. I need a tech lead. I need an architect. I need a functional specification. Nothing. No rule was followed. The Azure instance was procured. The product was identified, installed, and then tailored and customized on that instance and provided as a service, as a white label service to that customer. So on 2 days later, when we went and met the customer, we showed it and we demonstrated that, and we also took their own use cases and we actually ran it and showed. There was no PowerPoint, nothing. It was just the system. That is extreme. But hey, I follow no rules. We are original people. And we had a problem, we solved the problem and we gave it to the customer. Now, that has a flip side. It sets a very wrong benchmark because the next time the customer will expect something similar. That is when you set the expectation saying that this, you are in trouble and we did this in an ad hoc manner. This cannot be scaled at pace. There is a method to the madness, and if you could tell me your roadmap, then we can start building up piece by piece, and slowly and steadily that particular customer started opening up and they started telling other things, and now things are falling in place. But the Lego blocks have to be put in a particular order. So when you bend the rules or you don't follow rules, you have to be 5 times more careful than what you are when you follow the rules. But the result is 50 times more positive. It's a high risk, high reward game, but then that's what makes life more interesting. And the last example that I wanted to share with you today is something about how a team of 6 people came together. They ideated, came up with an idea within Hexaware, and then they played multiple roles at multiple points in time over a 5 to 6 week period. And once they had reached a particular point wherein they had enough ideation, they just executed it themselves. They built the software, not only just created the idea, but built the software and released the software within 5 to 6 weeks, which was considered to be best in class, acknowledged by Microsoft as one of the best, and so on and so forth. But what is more appealing is the way teams work. These 6 people had different backgrounds, but they rose above their limitations and they started doing other things which they would not have done otherwise. And that actually helped them to actually discover innate skills within them, which actually reflected in the quality of the product, and thereby QC and QA became immersive. Testing is very immersive today, and it is rightly so. It is not that we don't test much, we actually test more than what we used to do in the past. Automation or no automation, that's a different story, because if it is not automated, then there's a serious problem somewhere. But then people coming together, rising over their defined boundaries and defined roles can happen only when there is an ecosystem that fosters it. If you give time, space, and allow people to come together, the good people will automatically attract each other, and the work, if the work is put at the center of everything that you do, teamification happens, collaboration happens, and then thereby team cohesion increases, and thereby the customer also starts respecting your team more, because they know they have a partner who has a team whose team is extremely cohesive, where the team members work for each other's goals. When you put all of these together, that is when you can have magic, and that is when you can actually experience it. I've had the great fortune of experiencing all of this. Yes, it doesn't come without effort. There's a lot of back end effort, and there's a background heavy lifting that happens in order to bring the right people together and bring and make them work as a single team. The only thing that I would want to state and highlight here is that please don't think that by following Agile you have a license to fail. Please, that is something people misunderstand. No, you have the license to win. It is a mechanism for you to tailor your working style, your team structuring and ways of working in order to win. I am not here to talk about the ceremonies, the scrum and scrum of scrums and stuff like that. I assume that experts are there to speak about it. I'm only sharing my experiences wherein we've had teams come together and work together. There's another example. Okay, one. Sorry, I would also want to share another example. How could I forget that? About a few years ago, we had to bring together a team of people, and typically, right, India-based IT services company. There is an on-site and there is an offshore team. What if you have to deliver the same results both internally to the company as well as to the customer, and the same experience or if not better, when you take away, when your two most primary levers are not there with you? You have to deliver at scale, deliver at pace, and you don't have two very important operating levers. The number one is all the activity must happen at a high cost location, and still you have to manage the bottom line. Two, only people with a certain credential have to be included in that project. So that's a very limiting thing. You cannot take work to where talent is. You have to make do with a certain subsection of pool, and within the pool you have to find and curate that talent. And still you have to match the speed, you have to match the business results for the customer as well as for the company that we work for. How do you do that? Again, tailoring the rules on the job, on the ground, makes the team agile. Same concepts, but in a different way. How do you teamify it? How do you collaborate? Make learning a continuous activity. How do you identify learning paths so that people can upskill and reskill by using on-the-job training, OJT, and slowly and steadily. It is not about the DevOps mindset where a developer tests and a tester codes. No, that is easy. That is linear transformation. What we are talking about is non-linear transformation. You have a business analyst, and the business analyst has to develop as an administrator of a system to give rights and accesses to business users. How do you help that person develop that skill? And given that that person and that particular geography itself is new, and you have only limited set of people, and there's a lot of work to be done. How do you balance and slice the work? How do you set the right expectations with the business users and the customers? And how do you right fit that? Again, you bring the team together, you teamify work, and this time you include the business users also as part of your pod or your team, and then create pods wherein each pod owns a particular business for the enterprise, and part of the pod is people from the IT side, which is from the service provider side, and part of the pod is from the business user side. And then when they work together, then they understand the nuances and the difficulties or the ease with which things can be done. Accordingly, expectations were right set, and once expectations are right set on the customer side, again magic can happen. This is yet another example of how to twist and turn and manage the situation. And it took a while. It took about 3 to 6 months to come through. There were a lot of bumps on the road, but each and everything was resolved by only one objective. The work output of the work is at the center of everything we do, and we will teamify the goals, and the goals between the customer's business team and service providers IT teams were crisscross, like they work for each other's goals. Once you establish that, automatically free flowing communication happened. And in this case, there was no language barrier, there was no cultural barrier, the usual things that comes with on-site and offshore. That was exploited, that advantage was exploited. Is the same thing. Ashwin said, I can't play fast bowling. You played better to Vihari. So Vihari took the fast bowlers. Ashwin played the spinners. So that's the same thing again. So that's another example of how when you think and apply the concepts on the job, you'll be able to get things going. So with this, I'm open to take questions if there are any questions. I've shared my experiences with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ravi, for that. So it was a wonderful session, and yeah, so you shared lot of challenges and the anti-pattern of the team. Thanks a lot once again for all your experience that you have shared with us. So we have few question in chat box, Ravi. So the first question is, how could you resolve the communication part when the language was a barrier?
Yeah, I think I answered that question, but I will repeat. See, when there's a language barrier and two people are on two sides of the globe, and but they are part of the same team. So when the team got restructured, there were three people, three people in London, three people in India, and three people in Latin America. So if you have that, then uh, the key aspect is you get all of them together and help them understand one thing. Your success depends on the success of the other person. So his goal is ABC and you work for ABC. Your goal is XYZ, the other person will work for you. The moment you connect the things, automatically people figure out a way to actually communicate with each other. No amount of translators, no amount of Google Translate can help. No, absolutely no. No amount of nothing can help, because people are smart, people are perceptive, and they understand, and they'll find a way to work with each other. Even if two people know the same language, come from the same village in India, are you telling me that they can communicate well? No, they have to connect, and once you establish that connect between the parties, automatically they will find a way to talk to each other.
Okay, we have other question from Prashant. We see conflicting job description at times. Justification is business cost. Example, the JD of Scrum Master JD has various line items of PM, PMO, Scrum team in addition to Scrum Master. How does the Scrum Master handle this conflicts?
See, it's like this. Today, the roles are converging. The roles are converging. You cannot say that I am this and hence I am not that. That is very clear. So it has to be a learnability aspect has to be checked. If a person is a good Scrum Master, the person should be able to pick up the skills of a shared services manager or a PMO as well. In my opinion, that is what I am seeing as a trend. People are cross skilling in a sideway manner, not just upskilling themselves. They're also skilling around the side. So basically, a Scrum Master is picking up a PMO skills as well in order to provide that full stack experience. So I think there is no conflict. It is just that you have to learn on the job and absorb those skills, because that is the if that role is giving stability to the team.
Yeah, Ravi. And we have one more last question. Is leadership correlated with age?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've had experiences when I was the youngest member in the team and I was the head of the team. The project that I mentioned for Marlboro, I was not the youngest member in the team, but I had people much elder to me, and I had a great experience working with them. I learned from them. They understood me, and we have, even today we have a good personal relationship as well. It was an excellent experience. So I became a project leader back in the day. It was called project leader at the age of 24. So leadership is a trait. It is not correlated with experience.
So I see one more question has been posted there again. So what are the top challenges working with young leaders? Is it the spelling mistake? I'm not sure.
I think the question is, what are the top challenges working with young leaders or young thought leaders, something like that. First of all, there is no challenge. That's how I look at it. Absolutely no challenge, because everyone is good at something. One has to understand that very clearly. Everybody has their own perspective, and everyone is good at something. So five fingers are not the same, right? But you need the thumb and the little finger and everything. All fingers have their importance. So just because somebody is young or somebody is old, you cannot discount that. Everyone is definitely good at something. So you understand what they are good at, and you take that aspect and you give them credit. Yes, somebody may be aggressive. Somebody will want to take risk because they have not taken risk. Allow them to take risk. That is the only way you can stay relevant. The biggest risk is not taking risk. So you should allow, and 90% of the time they'll be successful. Yes, there's a 10% chance that they'll be failing, and that's when the experienced people come in and they handle it when things don't go well.
Shall we take one more question? I see one more new question. If leadership is a trait, then why does not TCS and CTS hire lateral candidate with 5 years experience over 3 years as project manager?
See, it is like this. If you are, I was in TCS. I had 3 years experience when I became a project manager or project leader in those days. So you cannot say this. It cannot say this. Yes, lateral candidates will find a lot of difficulty in immersing themselves into the company's fabric. It will take you at least 1 year to immerse yourself in a large company like a Cognizant or a TCS. It will take definitely that. So you have to give the time, and that's why they may insist on that maturity, because you have coming from outside. If you are in-house and grown from inside, you have greater ability to succeed. So I am nobody to comment on any organization's policy. I will exercise my right to remain silent on that policy question, please. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes, Ravi, I think we are good to close the session again. Thank you a lot once again, Ravi. Over to you, Nisha.
thank you.
Thank, thank you, Uma.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Uma, for the wonderful facilitation, and thank you, Ravi, for sharing the wonderful experiences with us.